I never imagined that choosing to be a teacher would cause such a huge rift in my family. But now, looking back, I realize it wasn't the job that broke us, it just brought to light all the hidden problems that had been building for years. Teaching wasn't just something I did, it was something I believed in. It gave me purpose. After finishing at the top of my class at Stanford, people expected me to go into tech and make lots of money. I surprised everyone by becoming a high school teacher instead. I wanted to help students like the ones at Lincoln Public High School, where I now taught AP Physics. My brother James said he supported me at first, but everything changed when he married Victoria. Victoria was different from us. She came from a wealthy, well-connected family and made it clear she thought I was beneath her. She worked as a high-level marketing executive at Reynolds Technologies, one of the biggest tech companies in Silicon Valley. From the start, she looked down on me and my job. "Stanford degree, and you're teaching in a poor school?" she'd say with a smirk. "Such a waste." I tried to ignore her and focus on my students. Last year, 98% of them passed their AP Physics exam. That mattered to me more than any paycheck. Still, her comments stung, and I often wondered if James secretly agreed with her. Then came the dinner party that changed everything. James and Victoria invited me to a fancy event at their newly remodeled mansion. The guest list included many of Victoria's co-workers and top executives from Reynolds Technologies. The table, away from the main guests. Around me were polished tech elites discussing investment portfolios and European vacations. I felt completely out of place. Then Victoria called out, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Sarah, why don't you tell everyone what you do?" I sat up straight. I teach AP Physics at Lincoln High. A sudden silence followed. Victoria laughed, sharp and mocking. "Can you believe it? Half of her class is Stanford, and she spends her days babysitting teenagers." Some guests chuckled awkwardly. James stared at his food. I tried to stay calm. "My students work hard. I'm proud of what I do." Victoria rolled her eyes. "Come on, Sarah, let's be honest. You're wasting your time and talent on kids who probably won't even graduate. You're playing hero in a system that's already broken." Just then, a deep voice came from the doorway. "Miss Anderson." Everyone turned. A tall man in a sleek, dark suit had entered the room. I immediately recognized him, Michael Reynolds, CEO of Reynolds Technologies, Victoria's boss. Victoria jumped up, clearly flustered. "Mr. Reynolds, we didn't know you were arriving so early." But he wasn't looking at her, he was looking at me, and to my surprise, his eyes were glassy with emotion. "Miss Anderson," he said again, walking toward me, "you may not remember, but you taught my son Alex last year." I blinked. Alex Reynolds, quiet kid, back row. Of course, I remember him. Mr. Reynolds nodded. He was struggling in school. The divorce hit him hard, and most teachers had given up on him, but you didn't. You stayed late with him every day, gave him extra help, encouraged him. You believed in him when no one else did. Tears burned in my eyes. "He just needed someone to believe," I whispered. "He's at MIT now," Mr. Reynolds said proudly, "on a full scholarship. He calls it the Miss Anderson Scholarship, because he says he wouldn't be there without you." The room was silent. Victoria looked like she might faint. "I've been trying to find you," Mr. Reynolds continued. "I wanted to thank you personally. I never imagined I'd run into you here." Then he looked around at the stunned faces. "This woman is not just a teacher, she's someone who changes lives. She gave my son a future." He turned back to me. "Miss Anderson, I'd like to speak to you about something very important, somewhere more appropriate." I stood up, heart pounding. "I'd like that very much." As we walked out, I heard Victoria whisper to James, "Did you know about this?" I didn't hear his response, and I didn't care. The next morning, I woke to dozens of missed calls and messages from James and Victoria. I ignored them. I had more important things to do, like meeting Mr. Reynolds at the Reynolds Technologies headquarters. I put on my nicest blazer and took a deep breath as I entered the towering glass building. Mr. Reynolds had told me the night before he wanted me to be part of something special. Now, I was about to find out what that meant. His assistant led me into a large conference room. Mr. Reynolds was there, along with a group of serious-looking board members. "Sarah," he greeted me warmly, "thank you for coming." Before he could continue, the door swung open. Victoria stormed in, looking angry and confused. "Michael, I can explain about last night, She froze when she saw me. "What is she doing here?" Mr. Reynolds didn't flinch. "Mrs. Thompson, this meeting is private. We're here to discuss our new $50 million education initiative." Victoria's eyes widened. "Education initiative?" "Yes," he said, cool and professional. "We're launching a foundation to support struggling public schools across the city, and we want Sarah to lead it." Victoria laughed bitterly. She's not qualified. I've been with this company for years. If anyone should lead a new project." Mr. Reynolds cut her off. "Speaking of your time here, we've reviewed your expense reports. It seems you've been charging personal items to the company." Victoria's face drained of color. "This includes designer clothes, luxury dinners, and even a spa retreat. We'll be speaking with legal shortly." She opened her mouth to protest, but no words came out. I sat frozen, shocked. Mr. Reynolds turned back to me. "Sarah, the offer still stands. Executive director, full control of the foundation, competitive salary and a budget to build real change." I looked around the room. For the first time, I realized I wasn't just a teacher to these people. I was someone who had proven that change was possible. And maybe it was time to believe that for myself, too. "I accept," I said. I froze when Victoria played the recording. Hearing James, my own brother, say I was an embarrassment, it felt like the ground had shifted beneath my feet. I tried to push it all aside, to stay calm, but my hands were shaking as I told her to leave. "Oh, I'll go," she said with a bitter smirk, stepping back out into the hallway. "But don't forget what I told you. James didn't just know about the embezzlement, he was in on it." Then, just before she turned away, she added one last thing, her voice low and cutting. "I sent everything to Reynolds' legal team this morning. You might want to warn your brother. It's only a matter of time." And with that, she disappeared into the night. I stood there in the silence of my apartment, the words echoing in my head like sirens. My brother, my only living family, had been part of the very scheme that got Victoria fired, that could land him in prison. I sank into the couch, unable to move. My phone lit up again, another call from James. I let it ring. Then, a different name flashed across the screen. "Mr. Reynolds." I answered. "Sarah." His voice was serious, even gentle. "I'm afraid we've received some documents this evening, proof of James's involvement in the fraud. I wanted you to hear it from me." I closed my eyes. Part of me had hoped Victoria was lying, twisting things, but deep down, I already knew the truth. Is it real?" I asked. "The documents are detailed and match the timeline of our investigation," Mr. Reynolds said. "We have no choice but to pursue legal action against both Victoria and James." I felt like the wind had been knocked out of me. I had come into all of this thinking it was just a job offer, a new beginning, but now, it was dragging the past into the light. "Mr. Reynolds," I said slowly, "about the foundation. I'd still like to accept your offer, but I need to ask, will my brother's actions affect the work?" There was a short pause. "No," he said finally, "your brother's decisions don't define you. They don't touch the kind of leader we know you are. What matters is what you do next." I looked over at the photo on my bookshelf, James and I as children, sitting on our front porch, smiling like nothing in the world could ever come between us. I reached out, took it down, and placed it in a drawer. "When do I start?" I asked. The following weeks were a whirlwind. News broke quickly: James and Victoria arrested, their faces plastered across local headlines. Tech power couple charged in multi-million-dollar embezzlement scheme. I poured myself into building the education foundation. I didn't have time to think too hard about my brother, or the betrayal. Mr. Reynolds and his team were fully behind me. They gave me resources, staff, and the freedom to dream big. We started launching programs in the city's most underfunded schools: free tutoring, mentorship, STEM labs, new books. Everywhere I went, teachers came up to thank me, students hugged me, principals cried. For the first time in a long while, I didn't feel small or underestimated. I felt proud. 6 months later, I sat in a courtroom, waiting for James's sentencing. He looked thinner, older. Our eyes met briefly. "Sarah," he started to speak. But I stopped him with a quiet shake of my head. "No, not now. You had years to be honest with me. It's time to be honest with yourself. I walked out before the judge finished speaking. That part of my story was over. That afternoon, as I sit reading I got a message from Victoria had been wrong, so had James. I hadn't wasted my potential. I had just used it in a different way. The foundation was growing fast. Within the first year, we'd expanded to 50 schools. We had plans for 20 more. Our work was changing lives, real lives. Sometimes I drove past Victoria's and James's old mansion. It had been sold to pay restitution. It looked empty enough, even in the sunlight. I didn't feel smug or triumphant, just, like everything had finally fallen into place. One day, at a small cafe near City Hall, I ran into Victoria's mother. She looked startled to see me and turned away, but I reached out. "Mrs. Carter," I said gently, "I'm sorry about how things turned out." She looked at me for a long moment, then she sighed. "Victoria called me from prison," she said softly. "She told me, you were right about everything." I nodded and let her walk away. Some victories don't need applause, just peace. Today, I still teach one class, AP Physics, once a week. It keeps me grounded, connected to the reason I started this journey. On my desk are two nameplates, the old one, Miss Anderson, physics teacher, and the new one, Sarah Anderson, executive director, Reynolds Education Foundation. Hanging from my neck is a small silver key, the one Mr. Reynolds gave me at the foundation launch. Engraved on the back are the words, "Education changes everything." And it truly does. James and Victoria chased power and image. They built their world on lies, and it all came crashing down. I chose honesty. I chose purpose. I chose to believe in something bigger than myself. And that choice changed not just my life, but hundreds of others. It wasn't easy. But it was worth it.